Hey guys, Kevin here with etrailer, and today I'm going to be showing you how to install the Seaflo Battery Disconnect Switch here on our 2018 Forest River Gray Wolf travel trailer. So if you find every now and then when you go to pick your trailer up out of the storage lot that your battery's been completely drained because your jack or maybe your lights or something else were left on and just kind of drained the battery, and then you can't operate your jack to lift it up and actually hook up to your tow vehicle, a battery disconnect switch like this one is going to be the right solution for you. This selector switch is going to allow you to not only pull from one battery but also a second battery in parallel without having to actually wire it in parallel, because it's going to accept power wires from each of those batteries and put it in parallel before sending it out to your trailer. As far as installation goes, the hardest part is really just getting that base kind of set up, just because the 4 mounting spots are pretty tight inside of here. So getting that screwdriver or screw gun in there or socket, whatever you need to do to get it in there and get it mounted up to your frame or whatever else you're installing it on, can be quite a challenge. Other than that, it is super easy to install and then use. So on our particular neighbor's trailer today, they only have 1 battery, but they are planning on upgrading to 2 batteries and placing it right in here. We're kind of tight on space, so I think the best option is going to be surface mounting it right here and just kind of keeping it as close as I can over to our weight distribution bracket sitting here, so that he has plenty of room for that second battery. So we don't want to make it hard to try and turn the knob and shut our batteries on or off. When we're trying to screw this in, we're going to have to place our screws down inside of these little bracket holes here, which are pretty hard to get to, so I'm not a huge fan of those, but this bracket does make installation super easy, so that's what we're going to have to just do. But I'm just using some small, thin, self-tapping screws. I'm going to drop that in there, and then I have a socket that I'm going to stick down in there to shoot these into our frame. So as I'm shooting this in, I want to be super careful because this is plastic. It could break if I try to push it in a little bit too hard. So we're just going to go a little bit at a time and then make sure that we're sitting right. So the second we heard that, I can kind of let off. Got a little bit more room to go, so I'm going to keep tightening that down. And I got it nice and tight up against the frame. We can go ahead and start doing the top ones. Like I said, this can be a little bit challenging just getting it in there. But once you do, just take it nice and slow. Make sure that you don't drill all the way through and ruin your bracket. If you need to, you can kind of pull up and make sure that the screw's actually coming through that mounting hole. It does take just a little bit of playing around to start though. So the main power wire coming from our battery, this is what's going into our extra trailer. I removed from our battery. I'm going to have that hook up to our battery disconnect switch as our output. Now I have to run a new wire running from the battery over to our switch. So had a scrap piece of 4-gauge wire. I'm going to go ahead and try and just gauge exactly how much I need. I'm going to leave a little bit of extra slack as well, just in case we ever have to do anything else or move anything. Maybe down the road, whenever we add that second battery in, I have to kind of readjust. So I think probably right about there is more than enough slack, and I'll go ahead and just trim this wire down a bit. And then also sometimes our ring terminals, they have kind of a wider mouth on it, but it doesn't always get over that casing, so I may have to trim down that casing just a bit. Yeah. So very carefully, I'm just going to go ahead and kind of try and shave just the tip.
Oh man, that's wrong.
I don't want to cut all the way through, I just want to kind of round that down.
See what I did?
So now I'm using my hydraulic crimping tool. Crimp on that ring terminal. I kind of turned my ring terminal so that it's going to sit straight while it's hooked up to my disconnect switch, just because as that wire sits there, it kind of wants to only go one way, so I don't want the wire trying to fight against me. Now that we have that crimped down, we want to make sure that we seal this up. I'm just going to use some electrical tape. If you had one of the shrinking sleeves, you could go ahead and slide one of those on and then just heat it up to kind of shrink it down. That way you make sure you're not getting any water in there and corroding anything. position this so it's going to actually shoot out of there without interfering with the post that bracket it on. And we'll get that threaded. And I'll tighten that down with my wrench. Now we can hook up our output, which is on there pretty tight. Let's pop that off. And same thing, I'm gonna have to pop that tab. And route it like that. Put our nut back on. That in place, we can go ahead and pop our disconnect on, and then we can hook up our battery side and put on our nut. Now, as you can see, we have our line right here showing that we're up on the off position. Since I'm hooked up to battery 1, I'm going to switch over to 1. And then we can test our jack and just see if we have power. So with the power on battery 1, as you can see, our light's working, and if I wanted to go ahead and disconnect it again, switch it to off, and it cuts off our power. Well, I think that about does it for today's installation of the Seaflo Battery Selector Switch here on our 2018 Forest River Gray Wolf travel trailer. My name's Kevin. Thanks for watching.